I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Director Hayes, would you please read our board priorities?
I'll be happy to. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment to our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of our students and staff. Direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impact of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you. Director Crumwoody, would you please read our mission and vision statements?
Our mission statement says, enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. Our vision statement is that education that challenges conventional thinking prepares all of our students to compete in a global society and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Superintendent Tate, do we have any student board reports?
I bet we do. Luke, you want to start?
Not too much has been going on because we just had spring break, but over break our band took a trip to Florida where I believe they performed at Disney World. And then a grassroots organization started by Central students, the Our City movement, will be holding an Ideas Festival at the Figgy on Sunday, April 12th. There'll be speakers talking about the best way to revitalize downtown and breakout sessions in which community members can voice their ideas as to how to make downtown Davenport the best it can be.
Our car bash for ovarian cancer research funding after our finals raised about $300, so it was a pretty successful first run.
For North, not very many things have been going on as well, just because of spring break. But in the near future, we do have our spring musical coming up, The Drowsy Chaperone, and that will be April 10th, 11th, and 12th. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, students. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And next looks like we've got a West High showcase. Superintendent Tate.
And Mr. Lawler, thank you for being here tonight.
I loved hearing the vision statement, and it had the issues. Would you read it one more time, please? Because it does deal with what we're talking about.
I'll turn on my mic. The vision statement?
I think that's where you got to what if.
Education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Yep, exactly. That really is the presentation. I would love to have brought students and teachers tonight. It is the first day of term, and that was not really the best timing for them, but I would tell you that they are all engaged in those very activities even today. They are up there at school in a number of these issues that I'll share with you are not issues but examples. West High STEM projects is really what I'm talking about here. This, of course, is a national initiative, and you know it probably from hearing about other projects we've had in the past. Both Project Lead the Way would fall under this, but basically you're well informed on science, technology, engineering, and math. I want to give you a brief timeline for West High getting involved with STEM projects. Mr. Steve Verdon, who was West High business teacher and chair, initiated a whole sense of curriculum around these ideas through the business department prior to 2013. And part of that established the Business Academy, which is a model of one sorts for the whole STEM entrepreneur innovation ideas. I left his name off here, but Jason Franzenberg as well in Project Lead the Way has been involved with that for a number of years also. In Meredith Tangen, who is a business teacher at West also, attended a University of Iowa entrepreneur leadership training workshop for a week, and the intent there was to incorporate those ideas into a curriculum and instruction model for the high school. The next year, West High was invited back to attend the same type of leadership training, and we were the largest team, our high school in the state, to attend, and that was last summer, where they developed school-wide collaborative projects. That team included members of our staff and their names are listed there. I would like to say those, though. Joyce Saladino, Steve Verdon, Greg Smith, Andy Zinn, Ryan Grapp, Renee Leitz, and Meredith Tangen. They're also involved in the District of Distinction model for City High that is being developed at West. That's what this really tells you. City High teachers attended it, and then they designed projects. The unique thing for West was we were so large and had so many opportunities going, they allowed us to do 4 projects instead of just the one most schools would have to address. Student teams, out of this process then, teachers identified student teams, and here you'll see the general parts of STEM project development: identifying a problem, designing a solution. There has to be a client presentation, which is really delightful to see them. I wish I may drag them down to something sometime for you to see the presentation on one piece that I'll refer to later. But to see young adults able to perform as if they're professionals in the field is remarkable. They also have to come up with their own funding. Well, this isn't a thing where we just say, well, here, we'll give you this much money. So they had to find resources for funding in this project, and then they have to complete it in a timely fashion. You won't be able to see these very well, but you've already heard, I think Mid-City as well as West got involved with buddy benches. There is a vision statement that has to come out of it, and then the teachers that were involved were Steve Verdon and Jason Franzenberg. 2 different departments collaborating together with 2 different sets of students to come up with a way to resolve an issue and then produce a product. The Hall of Academic Honor is an exciting piece for us that Mr. Smith and his team of students do, and I should say that the students end up doing all of the work. The teacher really does try to stay out of it so that the students experience the process involved. This one involves relining some of our brick walls in the main hallway to create an academic hall, and you'll see a picture. I'll point that out in the very last slide. The parking lot fencing is very exciting to us because that's Mr. Zinn's group of students, and they're the ones with the fun project because they have animation in there showing you how all the pieces fit together. But that fencing project is for the west side of the building. This has been a collaborative effort that branched out from West High and involved operations here, and operations chose to work with the students and to help them in the design process so that both pieces would fit together in the new parking lot renovations that are going to occur this summer. The last one's the blood drive, something that we do anyway, but the difference is that Ms. Leitz, Renee Leitz, she chose to incorporate student leadership into it and put them as the main persons responsible for it. And it has continued to be very successful. So those are 4. There, of course, they had many other ideas. These are just some quick stats. The teachers involved are in excess of 8 at this point. As they have explored each of these projects, you find interest by other teachers. It kind of passes along in a good way of going viral, I hope, eventually. Students involved, there are 30 plus, there could be 50 at this point in time. The projects were 4. The skills are too many to count. They all come under the Iowa Core and other indicated professional skills. Some are listed there, and those students had an involvement in one way or another. I think you'll hear later about home construction, and one of the key things there is this idea of persistence and hard work. Those are really important skills today in finding employees like that. These give kids that opportunity to incorporate their learning into practical projects. The cost to us, we were willing to pay parts and pieces of varying amounts, and so we're at $2,500 on that, but the value of it, of course, to quote the ad, is priceless. STEM future in our building would look like this. We already have grant-supported STEM classes in 9th grade. The ones that exist now are an integrated geometry and earth science classroom. And that one, they work on projects 4 times a year. Those projects, however, do not serve the community at this point, but they do serve the learning of the kids. They have similar pieces to that. Another one would be Project Lead the Way courses that are there, and that will be expanded, we hope, to include a new level of computer science. The idea we have is to integrate those into 2 areas that don't make any sense for STEM. But there are opportunities to integrate the same methodology and the same end products, and that would be a combined social studies English class. Community projects, which would be within the school and district based on different needs. The fencing one we see as the possibility exists for it to expand and incorporate itself around the building as a whole. City High, these are the areas that you'll hear about, I think, in April. We're coming to share with you some ideas about this. But these are areas that we will continue to pursue, and they all have STEM connections. Now, I just gathered 3 photographs to show you. The top one is one of the boys doing some prep work for the Hall of Honor, and the young man on the bottom with the name plates. Every student who has graduated with a 4 point since the 1960s will have their name up on that wall. Then the Buddy Bench group is over here. The fencing one you're going to hear in the future, I hope, more about. So our STEM projects, I think, are fostering the very employability skills, which sometimes hard to figure out where you're going to put that relative to the curriculum. And in the Iowa core, it's nice to know that we've got teachers who are trained in it and will continue to do so. They all intend to incorporate more projects next year as well. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Anybody? Director Dickman.
How many students do you anticipate for next year, or is it still so variable?
Involved in this?
Yeah.
My anticipation is you should see that number double, because you're going to see additional projects come out of these. In addition to that, part of City High is a natural location to place those kinds of activities for students in. And when we share with you later some of our ideas about that, I think you'll see the natural connections.
Fantastic. I'm sad we didn't have students and teachers here able, but I understand.
Well, you didn't have time for them all because they're all very excited about their projects too. I would tell you one other thing, very diverse groups of students on these teams. They do not necessarily go out and say, oh, well, you're the top students in the building, let's get you. They make sure that they're providing opportunity for every single kid at every single level. So if I brought them in here and lined them up by grade points, we would go from a 4 point down to probably a 1.9 type of thing. And it's very nice to know, because this is the kind of thing that kids get charged up about, and then they feel good about school and they want to keep doing other things. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Director Kluhl.
Anticipated me, thank you. One of the things about education now is that what we're doing is incorporating things that kids need to know when they're employed. It's not like job training,
Right.
but what it is I think employers are not looking so much for content of information that children have learned, but they're looking for how they put skills together, and it's easy to see how these kinds of things pull those skills together. I'm just wondering if at some point in the future you're considering including an A in that STEM program to include the arts.
Oh, that's nice you brought that up. I've talked to people at the Creative Arts Academy about that, and yes, we've looked at ideas in that. Let me give you one example that I know of. Mr. Zinn, a year or two ago, I think it was last spring, if you go down to Sunderbrook Park and walk down the sidewalk, you'll see giant coneflowers or rudbeckia of some kind. Those were all welded as what would really be a STEAM project, because you take the STEM model and you add the arts, and they created that. To a certain extent, that's what the fencing thing is adding a little piece, because you'll see some design elements that they're going to be doing on graphic programming on a computer to create some of the walls or panels for the fencing. Yes, I think we will look for those things, and we've talked about it. We've talked about expanding our welding program and partnering it with the art department. We've talked about taking our computer graphics group and asking them to work on some career skills. And so this next year, the department chair is going to be looking at connections for what you're doing in the art classroom, what vocationally will that look like, and where can you start to serve the client initially of West High School. So yeah,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Director Snyder.
I like programs like this because anytime you give a child an opportunity to work with their hands and kind of experiment and develop an interest in trades, it's a good thing because there's still a lot of skilled trade positions out there that need people all the time. Not every child is going to continue on in their education or go into the military. Some of them are going to enter the workforce when they're out of high school. And anytime we give them an opportunity to learn something like that, develop those curiosities to where they want to take on and learn other things, I think that's a good thing. And you guys have a great program there. I know your welding program is absolutely outstanding. I know quite a few kids that have gone through that. And you guys are doing good things over there at West.
Thank you. I think a lot of it is, it's important to remember that the initiative for this is teacher initiative. They have a vision for it. They want to see it done, and they have a great heart for it. One of our teachers refers to it as students. There are different kinds of students. You need to provide for the different types of students. And the nice thing about STEM is, as I said before, it reaches every level of student that we have. And that's an important part of it, is that there's no elitist involvement. There's no excluding. It's people who want to get involved and do something important for their community. Notice they were all community service type things. Very important to us. Anything else?
Anybody? Oh, Luke?
That integrated geometry and earth science sounded really interesting. Do the students learn all the material they'd learned in those two classes separately in that one class, or how does that work?
That's a great question, and they designed a different curriculum last year, and it involves integrating it so that the geometry will parallel the science instruction. It's earth science, it's 9th grade, and then what they'll look for are projects that have commonalities that they can utilize math skills in the science information and relationships that they've studied. It generally ends with them doing a presentation as a team about some issue, some problem. You'll see that in STEM. It's always problem-based. And so, yeah, it's a very exciting thing. They have 2 adjacent rooms. The one room right now is very boring, looks like a regular classroom. The other side is exciting. It has unusual furniture. It has whiteboards that are glass boards. It has projectors everywhere. They have a unified set of smart boards so that if you want to do your presentation, you can put it on everybody's at once, or you can work on yours individually. They have flexible seating, flexible groupings. And I'll tell you what, I'm always shocked to go in there. Honestly, you guys aren't 9th graders, are you anymore? No. Honestly, to find 9th graders engaged, working productively as team members is probably one of the most exciting things that we see. So that's why we would like to expand it, particularly at that level, and then further on into 10th. Anyone else?
Director Kluhl.
I'm just curious if there's any mixing of cohorts in terms of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders.
Probably on the STEM projects, yes, and that will depend upon their level of skill already, entry-level skill. So let's say we're talking about the fence. That may be a combination of 10, 11, and 12. Because business academy projects could be like that too. Okay. 9th grade we have not, because they just haven't had the skill development.
Great.
Okay.
I think that's wonderful, because I think when we can, like we've done at J.B. Young, where we can allow kids the opportunity to mentor younger children, and younger children, of course, always teach older people, adults included, things as well. So that's a great mix.
Anybody else? All right. Very good. Great
you.
presentation. Thank you, Mr. Lawler. Superintendent Tate, we'll move on to the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Perfect segue when we're talking about employability skills. We have students that each year begin with a plot of land and end up with a house that they have been the construction crew for, and it sells on the open market, and it's just a great program. If any of you had a chance to visit, the students are very excited and proud of what they're doing, and to me it's just absolutely amazing all of the work that they do. So Jean, go ahead and tell us a little bit about it.
Got a little presentation for you. Maybe. Is it in here? I'm Jean Bales. I'm the curriculum specialist for career and technical education. And in the back of the room, hiding out, I have Lynn Fig, who is a CTE teacher at North and a facilitator of the Student Built Home program, and Craig Peakenschneider, who is actually our instructor for that program. So they may jump in and add some things or answer questions as we go along. So this is a really great bookmark for what we've just been talking about. The Student Built Home program is a really unique program that lets kids get involved in their learning in a whole different way than what we typically see in a high school. We've talked a lot about hands-on learning with the STEM projects, and that holds true with the Student Built Home program as well. The students are not only learning the skills and the things that they need to know to go on to construction trades after high school, but they're actually applying it every single day when they literally are building a house from the ground up. They start with a patch of dirt. It's also unique in that all of the instruction is site-based. It's kind of like our version of on-the-job training. So all of the learning that happens actually happens at the work site. Craig teaches these kids everything from pouring concrete to building walls to drywalling to HVAC and plumbing and electrical and finishing off the house. All of that happens right there at the job site. Students also have an opportunity for mentoring from some people in the industry. We partner with the Quad City Area Realtor Association and the QC Home Builders Association, and they provide industry professionals who can come out and mentor the kids, perhaps give them some industry expertise or some instruction. And I think most importantly, it gives these students an opportunity to start networking with these people who are very likely the people who are going to be hiring them when they leave high school and start looking for jobs or apprenticeships in the trades. And finally, the program really prepares students for what they need to know in career. We expect our students to show up every day. We expect them to be on time, ready to work hard through that whole 2-block period of class time that they're there. And these are soft skills that oftentimes when I'm talking with people in industry, I hear, your graduates maybe don't have enough of those soft skills when they come to us, and we have to teach them some of that. And by holding these kids accountable to those things through this year-long course, we really give them a leg up and establish that as a goal before they ever leave high school and enter the workforce. We do ask students to fill out an application. It's just a one-pager. It's nothing too intense, but we do get some basic information, including areas that they might be interested in, maybe previous experience they've had with construction or different areas of that. But I think the most important part of that application is we ask them to write a short essay that explains what their future goals are and how they think this program can help them achieve those goals. We really want students to understand that when they come to the student-built home classroom, if you will, they are really going to gain experience and skills and knowledge that can help them the moment they step foot out of high school, whether that means for them going straight into career or going into a 2 or 4 year college program of some sort. And so that essay question to me is a very important question for students to think about. It is open to seniors from across the district. And as I said earlier, they attend for 2 blocks or half the school day. We have a group that come in the morning and another group that comes in the afternoon. And in addition to the high school credit, they do earn college credits. This is a concurrent enrollment class offered through Scott Community College. We offer, as you can see here, 5 different sort of preparation classes in our high schools. We will not turn a student down if they haven't been able to get into one of these classes, whether it's for scheduling reasons or maybe they just came to the trades late. But we do encourage students to try and take as many of these classes as they can because it will give them some of that base knowledge that will help them when they're on the job site. I had the opportunity to attend an open house in late January, and I was talking to a student who took the 3 construction technology classes, and I asked him if he felt those classes really prepared him for being on the job site, and his response was, I don't think anything could prepare me for building a real house, but having been in that class, I felt a little bit more confident about what they were asking me to do. So a lack of experience is not a non-starter. We will still certainly look at every student, but we do offer these classes in the high schools for kids to take ahead of time. This is our current enrollment. This year we have 9 students in the class. We are actively working to increase our enrollment. I think some of the low enrollment may just be due to scheduling problems. Kids have to take certain classes or they want to take classes and can't fit this into their schedule. But also it's a marketing issue because I think we need to get the word out to administrators and counselors and students and parents about what this program is and how it can help their student as they progress through high school and then beyond, whatever it is they decide to do. To that end, in late January, we did have an open house. It was targeting administrators and counselors. There were also people from industry there, as well as parents of current students. But really, we wanted to show those administrators and counselors what student-built homes is, so that as they speak with their students and try to guide them in course selection, they have an idea of what this program means and which students might be a good fit for it. We also had some field trips to the house of prospective students, so they were able to come out in February and actually get a feel for the job site. It's much different than anything they've experienced in a classroom. And so I think by getting the students out there more so that they can see what it is this student-built home class really is, that will help boost our enrollment. And we're also looking at some of those 5 classes that I showed you earlier and looking at students who were successful in those classes, looking at teacher recommendations, and we're reaching out to them individually as well, offering them an opportunity to apply. We have 3 very strong community partnerships. I mentioned the Quad City Area Realtor Association. They actually pay for the housing lot and all the building materials. So the expense to us is our instructor expense. Everything else is paid for by the Realtor Association. And then once the house is finished, they sell it. They don't make any money off it. They collect 0% on commission. They put all those profits back into the program. The QC Home Builders Association is another partner. One of the things that they do, which is really nice and gives students a huge benefit as they look to take that next step into apprenticeship or a college class, is that they will provide each student who completes the program with a tool belt and a toolkit. So these things are not inexpensive. So to have that as you are finishing high school and going out into the real world is really a benefit. They also work with the Quad City Realtor Association, and they provide scholarships to students who might want to continue They're learning either at a community college or through an apprenticeship. And of course, we work closely with Eastern Iowa Community College, specifically Scott Community. They bring out their trade students when it's time to do the plumbing and the HVAC and the electrical. And they work side by side with our students and kind of act as mentors in that capacity as well. I mentioned that kids do get college credit for this class. They actually end up walking out with 12 credit hours. So that is another fantastic benefit. This is a look at this year's house. It's about 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 3/4 baths, a 2-car garage, and a partially finished walkout basement. When you look at this, you have to imagine that it started out just last August as a plot of dirt. And so these pictures, I think, were taken, there's snow, so December or January-ish. And they're still working now. I think I heard Craig say countertops are in, so they're working on those finishing pieces. But when you think about 9 high school students for 2 blocks a day coming to the work site and building a house that looks like this, it's pretty remarkable. We will be planning a celebration. We don't have an exact date yet. It's still kind of a work in progress. We're hoping for the week of May 18th. Definitely stay tuned for details. We'd love to have all of you come out and see the finished product firsthand. Thank you.
Any discussion? Director Crumwood.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for this presentation. I have brought this up a couple of years ago because I'm really into going out and visiting these new home sites. And I live in an area where this home is being built. In fact, I believe there's been 3 student homes built just north of us, and absolutely beautiful homes. I also take the opportunity to visit the Quad City Realtors who have open houses during these times, and they speak very highly of the program, and I know are just 100% behind this program. We also heard it when we worked on our vision statement with the Quad City Realtors. So first of all, I want to thank them for their involvement, and the QCA Home Builders Association and Scott Community College. In the past, when I visited, I've been out there when students have been working on the homes, and in the past it's been a joint effort between school districts. And so that's my first question. Is it just Davenport students? I believe North Scott was involved in the past, and perhaps another district.
North Scott was involved in the past. This year, I believe, is the first year that they've split off. So North Scott still does the program. They do their own home, and then Davenport we do our own home. Yep.
The idea of the celebration, I think, is huge, because I do think it's a marketing issue. I think this is one of the greatest programs that we have in this district, and I think we need to flaunt it. I don't think people are aware of these beautiful homes that our students are building, and what they're learning, and the college credit that they're receiving. So I would hope, I'll be there. I'm just going to walk right over because it's only
Wonderful.
a couple blocks from me. But I would hope other board members would be there and other district representatives to participate in the celebration, because I think we really need to make folks aware of what a powerful program this is and how great it is for our students to be involved in this program. So thank you for all your support and the support of our community organizations backing this, because I think
That's
it's
very
great.
important. We would not be able to do this program without their support.
Director Dickman.
I'm curious if you work with any of the local unions. I know they offer continuing education courses for some of their members, and I don't know if they would be willing or able to offer any of those classes for students, or if that would maybe be too high of a level.
To be honest, that's not something I've thought about before, but that is definitely something I think we're worth looking into, and it could be a partnership where they adjust maybe some of their classes so that our kids are at that right level and they can use it as a stepping stone as they move up. That's a great idea.
Okay, yeah, and I think the mentoring that you mentioned too, I think that there's a lot of members that I know that would love to to do that.
You want to
Yeah,
speak
just
to
to
that?
address the, when the trades come out and help with the different aspects of the building, they do talk about the different opportunities with unions and non-union. And I have 3 of them already applied to a plumber's, electrical, and 2 at the plumbing. So yes, they are being involved.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. And I just have to say that this is so cool. I cannot even begin to imagine a program that would be better for students who are even considering going into any of the trades post high school or post college. The hands-on experience is just, I don't think that you could do any better. So thank you. And this is amazing. I can't wait to go to the open house.
You'll be amazed.
I will be there.
Anybody else? Director Hayes.
I've heard of such a program in Illinois with Alleman doing the house project. I didn't realize there was one in Iowa, but I'm curious with the 2 blocks. You mentioned the morning and the afternoon group of 9 children. Do they have like different areas that they work on, or does one group pick up where the other one ends, or how is that sorted out for the continual process of it?
They all do the same stuff. Morning class will do start out stuff, and then the afternoon will do the same stuff in the afternoon. So it's nice on the number wise because you're not having kids step on each other trying to do everything. So yeah, they all do every aspect of it. It's not this group does one thing and the other group doesn't. No, they all do it together.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Okay. Any student board members?
There is
Did I
one
miss
thing.
anything? Oh, okay.
The house is going to be part of the Parade of Homes this year in April, so it won't be quite completed by that point. It'll be close. But
No pressure.
You're more than welcome to come to the Parade of Homes, so watch for that to come out, and we will make sure that you all get invites. And also, Craig and I were talking, our enrollment, I think, is doubled for next year at this
20.
point. So we're very excited about that. So our hard work of trying to promote the classes is going well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to communications. Director DeFau, would you please read our upcoming events?
March 30th, A Taste of Pro Start will be at 5:30 p.m. at the River Center, Davenport. April 1st, Policy Committee meeting, 4 o'clock p.m., ASC Executive Boardroom. April 6th, Committee of the Whole, 5:30 p.m., ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. April 7th, Legislative Advocacy Committee, 3 p.m., ASC Executive Boardroom. April 13th, regular board meeting, 6 p.m., ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. April 14th, Local School Improvement Advisory Committee, 5:30 p.m., ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. April 16th, 10 and 20 Years of Service Recognition Event, 4:30 to 6:30 at River Music Experience, Davenport. April 21st, Annual Retirement Dinner, 5 to 9 p.m. at the Radisson. And April 27th, regular meeting, 6 p.m., ASC Jim Hester Boardroom.
Thank you. We'll move on to open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We have one open forum request, and I was petitioned for special dispensation for this open forum request, and so I'm going to ask that the bell not be rung, and the open forum request is from Sally Ellis. Sally, if you want to come up, give your name and address, and tell us what you're thinking. And if it gets too long, I will cut you off. All right.
It isn't. My throat will be too dry. All right, I'm Sally Ellis, 2216 North Nevada, Davenport, Iowa, retired head custodian from the district. I have something I want to say to Dr. Tate first. 10 to 6:30, April the 13th, we're having our next rally in front of Brady Street. So don't forget that, the 13th. All right, Dr. Tate and board members and student board members. I'm a quilter, and I have made this quilt for you, Dr. Tate. First, to honor you for your service to our country, and second, to honor you for our service to the Davenport schools for going above and beyond what is expected. Our students are not worth less, and you are definitely, positively best. Thank you for your service. I've called this quilt Stars of Valor in honor of you.
Well, Sally, what a nice open forum request. I gotta say, I think it's the only open forum presentation that I can recall that I got tears in my eyes. So, thanks.
I meant every word of it.
I'm sure you did. Oh, yeah, take your time.
Hold it up behind. We can hold it up behind them.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hold it up.
Random bobbing head in the background.
All right. well, back to business. May I have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwitty.
I move the consent agenda as presented by the administration.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Dickman?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of bills?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I move that the board approve the following resolution as recommended by administration for the adoption of bills. The resolution is as follows. Resolved that all claims presented to the board, having been duly certified as correct by the Secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the Treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the period of March 5th, 2015 through March 18th, 2015.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Dickman?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a letter from the Association of School Business Officials International, signed by their Executive Director, John D. Musso, and it reads, Dear Dr. Tate, congratulations. The Association of School Business Officials International is pleased to announce that the Davenport Community School District has received the ASPO Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for the fiscal year ending 2014. As the only award program specifically designed for school district financial reporting, the Certificate of Excellence represents a significant achievement and reflects a high level of commitment to fiscal integrity. To receive the award, the district must satisfy specific guidelines for effective, high-quality financial reporting recognized by school business officials. And I might note that this is the 14th consecutive year that this letter has been sent. I'd like to congratulate Marcia and her entire financial department. We're lucky to have this sort of guidance in our financial business. So congratulations, Marcia. At a recent committee of the whole, Madison talked about their community learning center grant that they received and the good work they're doing with it. And I'm proud to report that both Smart and Monroe schools are the newest recipients of the 21st Century Learning Center grants, so we can expect great things from them. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion on the plans and specifications for Adams Elementary Traffic Safety Improvements Project?
Mr. President,
Director Dickman.
I move the administration's recommendation that the board approve the plans and specifications for the Adams Elementary Traffic Safety Improvements Project.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We will now hold a public hearing on the proposed project as published in the Quad City Times on March 13th, 2015. Anyone wishing to speak on this project, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any additional discussion on this matter? Director Snyder.
Mike read my mind by coming up here. I was wondering, Mike, if you could walk us through exactly what this involves, please.
Sure. At Adams, one of the Principal Sanders' highest priorities is to improve the traffic circulation within the parking lot and be able to better separate buses from parents. Right now, the situation daily in the morning and the afternoon is that traffic queues out onto Division and actually stops one of the lanes on Division Street. This project will create a lane on the east side of Division Street that will look something similar to the one that's on the west side for Williams in order to get cars less congested in the existing parking lot and to better separate buses from parents dropping off and picking up.
Yeah, because Williams has that long stretch that runs up along Division, which helps filter that. And actually, until discussing this, really, Adams has nothing, do they?
No, and the driveways will actually line up to make a four-way intersection and
Okay,
be
great.
a big improvement there.
Thank you very much.
Any additional discussion? All right, very good. I'll call for the vote. Director Dickman?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Kluel?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Crumwoody?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We have a motion for the plans and specifications for West High School Traffic Safety Improvements Project.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move administration recommend the board approve the plans and specification for the West High School Traffic Safety Improvement Project. President Johansson will conduct the public hearing on the project.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
We will now hold a public hearing on the proposed project as published in the Quad City Times on March 13, 2015. Anyone wishing to speak on this project, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any additional discussion on this matter? Director Snyder.
I'd just like to hear what the plans for this one are as well.
This will reorganize the parking layout. There'll be some pavement repairs and restriping, some curbs added. A driveway will be relocated. A current driveway that goes out onto Fairmont Street will be relocated. And then the internal circulation will be made to eliminate some conflicts in the ways that traffic circulates on the site and get rid of what they refer to as the racetrack around the south edge. You're familiar with the racetrack.
Yes.
You may recall about 9 months ago you had several folks come in open forum and talk about this. This is one of Mr. Lawler's highest priorities as well for facility improvements. And I would add that we've been able to take the engineering team that's working on this project and work with Mr. Zinn's students on the fence project that Mr. Lawler mentioned earlier. So we've been able to have an integration of the work they're going to do with these panels that they're making for their fence, and the kids have done CAD drawings and done a really nice job on the design of this fence, and now we've been able to integrate that work into this so that they'll fabricate the fence panels, and then they've been working with the engineers to locate the posts and so forth. So it was a great opportunity to get the project to be hands-on with the work the students in the STEM class are doing.
Thank you. I was glad to hear that there'll be some concrete repairs because there's a big section of that lot that's not in the very best of shape. So,
Director Hayes, did you have something? Oh, okay. Director Dickman.
I've driven by West when the students are getting out, and it's a little terrifying because they just kind of take over Locust a little bit. Is this doing anything to address maybe students being more select? And is there any way to make that situation a little safer? I would hate to have one of our students have an unfortunate experience with a car there.
Yes, it's going to change the layout and the lane layout and the queuing where everybody's on the west side of the building now. And by improving that exit onto Fairmont, we'll try to get some more traffic to go out to Fairmont, less going out to Locust, and more going actually around to the east side and exiting out by the Y. So there'll be, rather than everybody trying to get out to Locust, the whole arrangement will facilitate dispersing the traffic to Fairmont and to the exit by the Y on the east side.
Okay, glad to hear it.
Any additional discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Kluel.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding the plans and specifications for Madison Elementary Traffic Safety Improvements Project?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwitty.
I move the administration's recommendation that the board approve the plans and specifications for the Madison Elementary Traffic Safety Improvement Project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We will now hold a public hearing on the proposed project as published in the Quad City Times on March 13, 2015. Anyone wishing to speak on this project, please step forward to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any additional discussion on this matter? Director Snyder.
I would just like to hear this one as well. This one I would think would bring added challenges, being that this is on the corner of two major thoroughfares. So,
Yes, it's very challenging now. The traffic frequently queues out onto Brady. Cars exit Pleasant Street and cross Brady southbound, and we're going to create a new drop-off lane on the north side of Pleasant Street for parents to queue up and drop off on the north side of Pleasant. Currently, the staff puts often two staff out to help direct traffic there. You may know that people coming in go into a dead-end parking lot that they have to turn around to get out of, back out onto Pleasant Street. It also is one of the city's high priorities for us to help solve. The new lane, you will exit in at the east end of the property, north side of Pleasant Street, and then go up to the driveway at the north end of the parking lot on the north side of Pleasant Street to exit out to Brady. So that will get the exiting farther north of that offset intersection at Pleasant Street.
thank you.
Any additional discussion? All right. Seeing and hearing none. I'll call for the vote. I did propose it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding the approval of Adams Elementary partial roof replacement project?
Mr. President,
Director DeFau.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation and approve the lowest responsive bid of $168,385 from White Roofing of Eldridge, Iowa for the Adams Elementary partial roof replacement project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just thought perhaps Director Snyder might have a...
Nope.
All right. We'll call for the vote then. Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of Madison Elementary partial roof replacement project?
Mr. President,
Director Dickman.
I move the administration's recommendation that the board approve the lowest responsive bid of $467 from Jim Geese Commercial Roofing of Eldridge, Iowa for the Madison Elementary partial roof replacement project.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Dickman.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of the Hayes Elementary restroom and gym window project?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwitty.
I move the administration's recommendation, the approval of the lowest responsive bid with the alternate of $360,745 from Reed Construction of DeWitt, Iowa, for the Hayes Elementary restroom and gym window project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Crumwitty.
Just curious as to, now we've been working on these restrooms for quite some time. Where are we with the completion of the restroom updates and projects in the district?
I do not know the exact number, but there are still many left that need renovation. And if I were to guess, I would say we're perhaps 2/3 of the way through upgrading all of the existing student toilet rooms across the district. Quite a few still need to be attended to.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Director Snyder.
This is actually for the addition of restrooms for Hayes, correct? On the
This-
north side where...
Yes, this adds an additional pair near, it extends into that courtyard right near the pre-K addition.
Because when I was in there, if I'm not mistaken, kids have to walk almost the length of the building to use a restroom as it is now, correct?
Yes.
Director Dickman.
I know at one point there was an issue with the dryers being very loud, and that being a disruption to classrooms. It reminded me, has that issue been solved in the new design, or?
Yes, we're looking at a different model of hand dryer, and the technology's improving, but in some of the schools there's a hand dryer that's really loud, the air dryers.
Yes, I have a friend at JB, and
Any additional discussion? I've got a couple questions in your rationale. It says the need for additional restrooms, especially in the north corridor of the building, which will improve the student's life. And I thought, how does that improve students' life?
Well, it's disruptive for them, and to have to go across the building to the other side of the building to use the toilet room. Seems like having a convenient toilet room is an improvement to your daily life.
It might be an improvement, but then I was thinking, I mean, because I think of continuums, and I think, well, a continuum of 0 to whatever X is. I mean, you could have a bathroom every other classroom, and I just want to make sure that we're spending the money that we need to spend. Was this which money is this? Is this lost money that's paying for this?
I believe this is PEPL, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay. Then the next one. So replacing the glass block windows with the new translucent window systems in the gym will provide energy savings. So how much energy savings? How do you, is that a calculated number?
Yeah, that's
Is
a calculated thing, right?
Is it, give me a sense of how big is it? How real is it?
Real, but I don't know the scale. The suppliers supply the numbers, you know what I mean?
Right.
The translucent panel systems, manufacturers can tell you the difference
Right.
in heat gain through that system as opposed to the glass blocks.
So where I'm coming from is that, I mean, this is the kind of thing, and especially if it's coming from suppliers, it could be a 30-year payback on something like that for that kind of a project. But you don't have any sense for what kind of return on investment or
No, I
something?
wouldn't. And the justification for the selection of that system wouldn't be energy savings. It just happens to be that there is some.
What's the justification then?
The existing glass block system that's there, the original with the building, there are a number of broken glasses, and they're worn out, basically. These, you know, those glass blocks are grouted together, and there's missing grout and broken blocks, and the blocks are no longer manufactured, can't be replaced without looking different, and so forth. There's some operable windows that have been installed at some point that are worn out and don't properly close and operate, and the selection of a system to replace the entire glass block was the translucent plastic panels.
And was that a better alternative?
Yes, that's what we think is the best alternative.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. Director Crumwoody.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluel.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of resolution fixing the date of sale, electronic bidding procedures, and approving an official statement?
Mr. President,
Director Snyder.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the following resolution, fixing the date of sale of not to exceed $10 million in school infrastructure sales, service and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2015, approving electronic bidding procedures, and approving official statement. Whereas pursuant to Iowa Code Chapters 423E and 423F, the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District, the issuer, is currently entitled to receiving proceeds of the statewide school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax. And whereas pursuant to an election duly held in the district in accordance therewith on September 10th, 2013, and pursuant to Iowa Code Chapters 423E and 423F, the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District approve a revenue purpose statement and is currently entitled to expend proceeds of the statewide school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax. And whereas the board finds it advisably and necessary that bonds authorized at the election be offered for sale for the purpose authorized at the election, and it is in the best interest to issue bonds. And whereas the board deems it in the best interests of the school district and the residents thereof to receive bids to purchase school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds by means of both sealed and electronic internet communications. And whereas the board has received information from its financial advisor recommending the procedure for electronic bidding so as to provide for the integrity of competitive bidding process and to facilitate the delivery of bids by interested parties. Now, therefore, it is resolved by the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District in the counties of Scott, Muscatine, in the state of Iowa, that the parity competitive bidding system and the electronic bidding procedures attached hereto are found and determined to provide reasonable security and to maintain the integrity of the competitive bidding process and to facilitate the delivery of bids by interested parties in connection with the sale of not to exceed $10 million school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2015. That all electronic bidding shall be submitted in substantial conformity with the Iowa Code Section 75.14 and Chapter 554D. That school infrastructure sales, services, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2015, in the aggregate amount not to exceed $10 million, the bonds to be issued and dated May 12, 2015, be offered for sale. And that the Secretary of the Board of this school district shall cause to be prepared an official statement and to schedule the sale of the bonds. The bonds to be offered are school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2015, in the principal amount of not to exceed $10 million to be dated May 12, 2015. The official statements shall include the following terms, and the electronic bidding procedure attached to this resolution are approved. Time and place of sale. Sealed bids or electronic bids for the sale of bonds of the Davenport Community School District in the counties of Scott and Muscatine, State of Iowa, the issuer, will be received at the office of the district's financial advisor. Public Financial Management, Inc., 801 Grand Avenue, Suite 3300, Des Moines, Iowa, 50309. Phone number 515-243-2600 until 11 a.m. on April 13th, 2015. The bids will be publicly opened at that time and evaluated by Chief Financial Officer and the financial advisor and referred for action at the meeting of the Board of Directors. Sale and award. The sale and award of the bonds will be held at the board meeting scheduled on the same date. Manner of bidding. Open bids will not be received. No bid will be received after the time specified above for receiving bids. Bids will be received by any of the following methods. Sealed bidding. Sealed bids may be submitted and will be received at the office of the district's financial advisor, Public Financial Management, Inc., 801 Grand Avenue, Suite 3300, Des Moines, Iowa, 50309. Phone number 515-243-2600. Electronic bidding. Electronic internet bids will be received at the office of the district's financial advisor, Public Financial Management, Inc. The bids must be submitted through Parity. Electronic facsimile bidding. Electronic facsimile bids will be received at the office of the district's financial advisor, Public Financial Management, Inc. Fax number is 515-243-6994. Electronic facsimile bids will be sealed and treated as sealed bids. Official statement. An official statement of information pertaining to the bonds to be offered shall be prepared by the district's financial advisor, including a statement of the terms of offering and an official bid form. The official statement may be obtained by a request addressed to the Chief Financial Officer, Davenport Community School District, 1606 Brady Street, Davenport, Iowa, 52803, phone number 563-336-5000, or Jenny Blankenship, Public Financial Management, Inc., 801 Grand Avenue, Suite 3300, Des Moines, Iowa, 50309, phone number 515-724-5735. Terms of offering. All bids must be in conformity with, and the sale must be in accord with the terms of offerings as set forth in the official statement. Legal opinion. Bonds will be sold subject to the option of Ehlers and Cooney, P.C., attorneys of Des Moines, Iowa, as to the legality of their opinion will be furnished together with the printed bonds without cost to purchase, and all bids will be so conditioned. Do we really need to read all this?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we do.
All right. Except to the extent necessary to issue their opinion as to the legality of the bonds. The attorneys will not examine or review or express any opinion with respect to the accuracy or completeness of documents, materials, or statements made and furnished in connection with the sale, issuance, or marketing of the bonds. Rights reserved. The right is reserved to reject any or all bids and to waive any irregularities as deemed to be in the best interest of the public. That the preliminary official statement in the form presented to this meeting be, and the same hereby is approved as to form and deemed final for purposes of Rule 15C2-12 of the Securities and Exchange Commission, subject to such revisions, corrections, and modifications as the superintendent and board secretary, upon the advice of the district's financial advisor, shall determine to be appropriate, as and is authorized to be distributed in connection with the offering of the bonds for sale. That is it. Yes.
You lost me about page 2.
And Rich, that was your dream little thing there.
All right. Thank you for that. May I have a second?
Second. Except for the part about, do I have to read this whole thing?
Is there any discussion? Director Dickman.
My understanding of the reason why we're doing this is that after considering depreciation, inflation of the costs and the interest rates, that it is better to sell these bonds to do projects at an earlier date. Is that correct?
That is correct. Last year, Susan Gerlach was here from Public Financial Management and had given the board some information on the selling of bonds and had said that if we did 2 sales of bonds back-to-back of $10 million each, that by moving those projects up, we could save approximately $1.9 million versus a pay-as-you-go system. So it is so that we could get more projects done rather than extending them out over several years.
Okay, thank you. This is a very complicated issue with a lot of text to it, so I wanted to make sure that we're very clear.
Thank you. Director DeFau.
I understand the rationale for the bond sale. However, given the fact that we are at the beginning of a reevaluation of our facilities plan, I don't know that I agree with the timing.
Can you explain that a little bit?
I think what I said, we are in the process of reevaluating which projects we're going to fund with the monies available to us. As such, I think that we can obtain this money now, but we're not in the position to fully expend it perhaps in the timely manner we would choose, because we have yet to have that conversation.
Marcia, did you look like you want to say something?
The $10 million that we are recommending that we borrow will go toward specifically the Central High Auditorium and Pool project. Last year when we had the presentation by Susan, and she recommended the 2-year borrowing, and the board had given their consensus on that, we based our projects based on the fact that we would do that second borrowing. And so that has allowed us to bring forward the Wood project, the Fillmore project, and some of the other projects that have been presented to you, knowing that we would have, anticipating that we would have that second $1 million borrowing. If we did not have that, some of those projects that were already scheduled would now be put off until later dates.
Any additional discussion? I know there was a lot to read there, and I was trying to read along with you. And under the legal opinion, I think the way you read it was bonds will be sold subject to the option of Ehlers and Cooney, and it should have been opinion. But just a minor correction. Okay. I'm concerned about Marcia, when you said the second borrowing, I thought we had authorized $20 million originally.
You had authorized $20 million, but it was to be done in 2 consecutive years. And the reason we had presented it that way is if you offer bonds of $10 million or less, they are what you call bank qualified. And it's better for the district to offer bank qualified bonds than non-bank qualified. So we try to keep it at $10 million or under. And the reason is that banks will bid on those bonds and give us a better rate knowing that they're bank qualified, because there are some tax exempt implications for banks that purchased bank qualified bonds. If we were to go out for $20 million, we would not get as good of a rate because the banks could not take that tax write-off. And so that's why at the time Suzanne had recommended that we do $20 million, but we do it in 2 separate offerings so we could keep that bank qualified status.
And if I understood you correctly, you're saying that we've already started enough projects to use all 20 million. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And no other new projects, because this strategic plan will be coming up here fairly shortly, but that could be altered, and this bond issue would not be affected by anything that we would do on that the long-range facilities plan. Is that right? That's correct, and that is also why we didn't come to you with a greater dollar amount to borrow. We have the capacity to borrow up to $80 million. But knowing that the long-range plan is coming to you with recommendations, we just wanted to present
bonds enough for the projects that were already on the books, bonds or projects that we had already identified prior to the long-range plan that we are recommending for completion.
And the 20 million is all we've really discussed. So even if if the administration wanted more, it would have to ask the board, wouldn't it, for more authority?
Oh, absolutely.
Or however it would
Right.
be.
She had presented at the time last year $30 million in bonds, and we had discussed that that would really take us into projects in the future that we had not presented to the board yet. So that's why we were just sticking with what the original recommendation was, and that was of the $20 million.
Okay, thank you. Any additional discussion? Director Dickman.
I see some glazed eyes coming over our students. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear to you and the rest of the public that this is money for our capital projects. We've had a little discussion about the general fund versus the capital projects, and this is that second pool of money.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, we'll call for the vote. Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Crumwoody.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of policies?
Mr. President,
Director DeFau.
prior to my motion, may I ask whether or not the board would prefer individual motions for
Sure.
each?
Go ahead and ask.
Okay. Or if I can make a singular motion for the policies presented.
If it please the chair of the policy committee, I would ask that you detach policy 801.01 for a separate vote.
Okay. I can do that. Okay. So with that, I move that the board accept the policy committee's recommendation and approve the following policies that were discussed at prior meeting. 60405, health education. 70101, school facility studies. 60406, music lessons. 60512, career education. 70501, procedure in bond elections. 70302, site acquisition. 80201, compensation for expenses. 80202, travel by board members. 80205, Board of Directors self-evaluation. 80303, administrative rules and regulations. 80304, membership in state and national organizations. 90101, name of school district. 90102, legal status of the board. 90103, powers and responsibilities. 90104, number of members. And 90105, filling vacancies for directors and officers of the board.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Crumwoody.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion regarding policy 801.01?
Mr. President,
Director DeFau.
I move that the board accept the policy committee's recommendation and approve policy 80101, board committees.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
It would be odd if there weren't.
Well,
actually
I
do
was
that.
ready to say
I know. I
seeing
wanted to
none.
wait till the very last second. I wish I could do a
Director-
Peter Falk imitation, but I can't do it. I just have a question, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up during our previous discussion. It got by me. It's the second paragraph of 801-01. And it says, if based on the duties assigned by the board, a committee has decision-making or policy-making authority. And I'm just wondering under what conditions the policy committee would consider that it would give its the board's policy-making authority to a committee.
That's a good question. You know, I don't know that I can, in the next couple minutes, think of all the possible scenarios where we might make that consideration. You're right. Ultimately, it's the board's responsibility to make, you know, policy decisions on behalf of the school district. And I can't speculate as to why that language was originally placed in the policy. I don't see any code reference per se.
I just don't think it would ever be appropriate for the board to give up its policymaking authority. So if the committee could review that.
Unless you want to make an amendment to strike it, and I wonder if maybe the language was an attempt to acknowledge the fact that if 3 or more board members were on a committee, at least the perception could be that that committee would then become a decision-making entity. I mean, the policy committee's been very cognizant of the fact that we now have, you know, enough board members that we are required to follow open meeting laws. We are recording, we are taking minutes, we are following a strict agenda. We're publishing it prior to the meeting within 24 hours. We're making sure that we're not having any conversation that extends beyond the scope of the agenda. So, you know, we're taking seriously the charge that because we now have that number of board members in excess of 3, that we are obligated to follow open meeting laws, where previously we did not have to, you know, record the meeting and do other things because we didn't meet that threshold of board members. So it could be that, and that could certainly be reworked.
I appreciate the committees taking that into account, and I see that understanding committees you have dealt with that issue, talking about up to 4 rather than 2 and no more. But it's that reason that concerns me, the last sentence. If the committee does not possess any decision-making authority or policy-making authority, it would not be a governmental body subject to Chapter 21 open meetings. In fact, if it were a committee of 4 board members, it would, even though it's not making any policy or decisions. So I think that entire paragraph is suspect.
Would anyone else who sits on the policy committee care to comment?
Yeah, I would. I think there's something, if I recall right or correctly, even with respect to local school improvement advisory committee, and it strikes me that they're subject to the open meetings laws also. I don't recall why, because it isn't because of board members, but they may have some decision making. I guess I would be inclined to support Director Kluhl's thinking that we send it back to the committee. Is there any sense of urgency to this one?
No.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Director Snyder, you look like you're ready to talk.
Yeah, I too, I think that I don't see any reason to keep the second paragraph, but yeah, I definitely think it was a good catch by Director Kluhl, and we need to discuss this, look at it, and make sure that it's not for any other Iowa code reasons, which I can't think of any why that would even be in there. But
Mr. President?
Director DeFau.
So with that, I would amend my motion to postpone the vote on this policy until the April 13th board meeting, giving the policy committee time to review and consult with legal counsel as deemed necessary.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to the move to postpone till April 13th?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion to postpone? Excuse me a minute then. All right, I'm going to call for the vote on the motion to postpone until April 13th. Director DeFoe.
Yes.
Director Kluel.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Crumwoody.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. There are, looks like that's the end of our action items. If I've read everything right. We have no discussion items. We'll move straight to
We'll do.
what?
You're going to do the.
That's in my report. Are there any administrative reports?
No, Mr. President.
Are there any board reports or requests? Director Crumwoody.
Yes, Mr. President, first of all, on behalf of the board, I'd like to express our condolences to the family of Virginia Mason. Jenny Mason was one of the most outstanding teachers that we had in the Davenport School District, both at Grant and Garfield schools. And she passed away last week. And we would like to share our condolences to her husband, Ben, and their 3 children.
Thank you. Did you have another report?
Yes, I do.
Director Crumwoody.
I had asked the agenda committee to come up with a timeline for the discussion of the Beagle book, and I'm wondering if you're going to report on that this evening so we know where we're headed with our study.
Yes, that's part of my report.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other reports or requests? Director Dickman.
I read in the Quad City Times this morning an editorial about expressing their support for adequate funding for our students. And so I wanted to say thank you to the editorial board for helping to bring attention to the issue that our students are not being treated equitably, and that we do not consider our funding adequate to provide them with the education they deserve. Or my opinion is that that is the case.
Thank you. Any other reports or requests? All right, I've got two items to report. First, we have an ad hoc policy governance committee, and I'm appointing Director Snyder, Director Kluel, Director Johansson to that committee. And that committee will get together and do what it needs to do. Is there anything you need to talk about on that, Director Kluel?
I don't think so at this time. I think once the committee gets together, we'll set our ground rules in accordance with the board's desire that we look at our own system of governance and other possible alternatives or supplements. So I think once the board committee gets together, they'll make those decisions.
Okay, thank you. The other item that was given to the agenda committee is on the book discussion, and the decision that the agenda committee made is that the first part, and there were a lot of pieces. One is that the agenda committee said we will complete the book before you're gone. Okay? One way or the other. We don't know all of the pieces, but we are planning to start, and the first book discussion will be at 5 o'clock before the committee of the whole in April. And I don't know the date on that. Do you know offhand, Mary? Huh? 6th. So it'll be April 6th, and Director Hayes, you're leading that discussion. That'll be a half-hour discussion before the regular committee of the whole meeting. And the agenda committee is going to put together some guidelines also to help offer some sort of uniformity to the way that goes. Is that sufficient to answer your question, Director Cromedy?
Yes, could I comment?
Sure.
First of all, it's not about my having the book study completed before I leave the board. When I heard that the agenda committee was going to take 3 months to complete a book study, which could have been done in 3 meetings, I think, first of all, I was very disappointed. I think if this is really our board priority, a priority is a priority. And we presented to the board on March the 2nd, the Poverty Committee. And from there, we had hoped that the Agenda Committee would move faster to get a schedule going. I'm not sure what I tell the Poverty Committee. I've had some members of the Poverty Committee ask me, how's the book study going? I've had 2 board members ask me, actually 3 board members ask me, where are we at? What are we doing with it? And so I think we're really delaying the process. I think if we go this route, then that means we'll not be finished before July or late June probably. And then what do we do with that information? My other concern is we have Dr. Beagle coming next month. If we as a board have some questions, we have her right here available, that at least I believe 3 of us are attending her session. If we have questions, first of all, I was told, and my mind just went blank with the gal from Skip Along that is leading the Loretta Dixon. Loretta Dixon, thank you. Loretta Dixon contacted Dr. Beagle. This is the first time a school board has ever done this type of thing. She's very excited about it. I think we could even have a conversation with her. So I would love to have this finished up by the middle of April, and I'm not sure why we can't. I think it's a pretty easy read. It would help us in planning some things out, because that's what it's all about, is to do the book study, to come up with some plans as to how we're going to move the Poverty Committee along. And we have 40 members from our community that are really involved in this Poverty Committee. So I think we're delaying the process, and I'm disappointed, and I would just hope we can come up with a different kind of schedule.
I think I'm going to have to respond to that a little bit. I think that the Agenda Committee did respond to the request at the first Agenda Committee meeting that it had planned on. And as I'm looking at the calendar, the next Monday is actually the ProStart, which the board intentionally did not have a meeting on that night. And the following Monday is actually the Monday that we would be having the first book discussion, I believe. And so I don't think the intent of the Agenda Committee was to delay anything. I think it was to try to be responsible in fitting this into all of the other agendas. Are you suggesting, Director Crumwoody, maybe having a totally different meeting to discuss something like that instead of attaching it to one of our other meetings?
No, I was not thinking of having a special meeting I was looking at the agenda this evening, and we have a policy, or first of all, we have a committee of the whole meeting on April the 6th. I think we have another meeting on April the 13th. That's 2. And I think we could get probably much of the book completed by that time. We also have another meeting on April the 27th. So I think it's possible that if we really consider this being a priority, like we say it is, we could do this and we could have this knocked out by the end of April. I just have some real difficulty waiting until July to have this book study done and have some plans because this 4 members could be turned over here on the board come a month or so later.
Well, the agenda committee only set up this first, the first study, which is on the 6th, which is the next meeting after tonight. And the agenda committee can consider your concerns. The next meeting of the agenda committee, I believe, is on the 6th also. Isn't that correct? Or the 13th? 13th. Anyway, I appreciate your thoughts and your comments. Any additional reports or requests? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.